MIDDLEKAUFF.
Hey, babes.
Welcome, everybody, on this Tuesday midday. Recording this podcast before the Tuesday night games in the NFL, John. I said the Tuesday night games in the NFL.
Do you know what I wish was an option? Do you ever use the C button on your Comcast remote?
Yeah, pops up the score on the sides.
Yeah, that if there was like an option where on the television, we get the Rams, Seattle, where there would be another box where you could just flip to and just go back and forth. Even if it was on the same channel, like there weren't two separate channels, you could just kind of go back and forth on the same exact channel. Like you press a button and Fox would just go back and forth.
So like a red zone that you have control over, kind of.
Yeah. To allow them to stay, which I can't imagine there had to be some executives at Fox like, we already have this program paid for. I would have raised my hand and been like, who gives a flying fuck? Let's just put the NFL game at 1 and then the other one at 4. Let's do that. Until I Love Lucy or anyone else, bye-bye.
I wonder if it's something that actually if they're not allowed to do that based on like exclusive windows and.
It's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Don't they make the rules though, guy?
Completely. The NFL makes the rule. Why wouldn't the NFL want? If the NFL said to Fox, we're going to break our own rules. You can have that game, put it on Fox. Would they say no?
Well, it's always the thing with the PGA Tour. It's like when they go from Golf Channel sometimes in a big tournament back to like NBC or CBS. Every once in a while, there can be like a 30-minute window. It's like, you guys are making these rules. Like I get it if it's up against like the French Open or something in tennis. Sometimes you just go, you're like, I'm just watching like a Graham Bessinger replay. What are you guys doing here? And I respect that guy. I watched actually a YouTube video about his story. It made me gain some respect for him.
All right.
Not that I didn't. I always like his little interviews with random people.
I talked to somebody who worked on the show once. They said it was a difficult environment, but
like he's a big ego guy.
Yeah, it was not a well-oiled machine and that it was a difficult operation. I'm not trying to hide the details. I don't really quite even remember them other than this person couldn't get off the show faster. But
yeah, you're saying he was someone that he was being interviewed or he was
No, it was a person who worked on that was on the crew.
Gotcha. But
Jesse on the stream says like fan control football where they let you choose the plays and the views. Yeah, remember that?
Johnny
Manziel playing that league?
I think Bob Mahenry funded that. He had a team.
That's right.
With Flash Gordon, who I think just scored a touchdown for the Chiefs a couple weeks ago.
Good for him, man.
Just bad for you. See Alden, bad DUI.
I did not see that. When was that?
Oof. December 6th. I don't know. I saw it on TMZ. I think blew like a 2 point. Point. I guess not 2 point. 0.2. He was.
Wow.
He had open container in the car.
Yikes.
Yeah, sad.
Not good. By the way, we will have our lock of the week coming up Thursday. Our show Thursday is live after the Niner game. Niners-Titans Thursday Night Football. We have not talked about this. I don't know if we're going to do something live before the game, but the podcast coming up live after the game. So stay locked for that. And we'll have some discussions today about what our lock of the week might be, but that is the Thursday night schedule. The schedule for this week, Thursday Night Football. We will not do the show normally on Sunday like we normally do. We'll start the next week with our first pod of next week. Just FYI, Christmas weekend, all that kind of stuff. So that's the schedule for the next few days.
Enjoy your family, Not that, some people won't.
Or don't.
This can be annoying. Or don't. Yeah, do whatever you do.
Stay home, watch some movies, whatever you want to do.
Do whatever the hell you want. Cancel Christmas if you need to. Or just enjoy Santa, who, I think we have an older listener. I guess, never know if people are streaming and kids are in the car.
We've done this situation has happened before, remember?
I do think it's a little out. It was definitely a little different in the radio days than it would be in the podcast days. But, who knows? Maybe we have some 30-year-old naive people.
Well, you just listen in the car, John, through your speakers. There's a kid in the car seat in the back, That was the situation.
Did I forward
Remember, it happened last year. Somebody DM'd you, thanked you. For we bleeped it. We bleeped. Remember that? We bleeped.
Did you see the picture? Did I forward you the picture of the PNC, the Tiger tournament? They took every father and every kid, and Nelly Korda was in it with her dad, who turns out Nelly Korda's dad was a famous tennis player who won a major.
Yeah, well, her brother is a fantastic tennis player. I remember watching him at whatever last big tennis event I watched.
Up and comer, so don't sleep on the Kordas.
And they have another sister who's a really good golfer, right? Or is she a tennis player?
Yeah,
the other sister.
she's a golfer too.
Yeah.
They took the picture with all the the twosomes, right? Well, John Daly went to the thing in a Santa outfit. Most people were wearing nice clothes or whatever, but he went in Santa outfit. He kind of looks like Santa with the big ass beard.
I did not see that. By the way, speaking of the holidays and giving, nokidhungry.org/ham. Go to nokidhungry.org/ham. A lot of you have sent us DMs showing us your donations, which is awesome. Thank you. This is an incredible cause. We are trying to raise $25,000. Down the stretch we come. I think we are, at last check as of yesterday, almost to $22,000. So this is awesome. This is a fantastic charity, nokidhungry.org/ham. This is our campaign fundraiser with this group that does incredible work around the country. I mean, we're talking millions and millions and billions of dollars in grants and aid. We're talking about billions of meals for kids and families and communities that have a hard time getting food.
Yep. So nokidhungry.org/ham. Our goal is still 25. We're gonna need a strong push during this next week and a half till the new year. So appreciate everyone that's given. Can't thank you enough. Obviously, tax deductible. So whether it's $1, whether it's $100, we had a listener get $500. Our friends at Tito's, Puesto, Enzo's table, they've all donated. So thank you guys, all you guys individually and collectively. We appreciate you.
This show is sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka. 'Tis the season, John. It's a time to hang out. It's a time to savor responsibly, no doubt. And we would encourage you to do it with our friends at Tito's.
This happens to be the #1 vodka in America. No big deal. Have yourself a Tito's Toddy. Have yourself a Tito's Mary Mule. Have yourself a Tito's Soda. Have yourself, I think John Daly's sober, but if he wasn't, he would have himself a John Daly. That'd be incredible to have yourself. It's one thing to some people have like a sandwich named after them, whatever, in their town, but have like a legitimate universal drink. John Daly having a John Daly. That's got to be kind of cool. What are you drinking, John? Well, I'm drinking my own drink that is named after me.
Do you think John goes to the bartender and says, I'll have a virgin John Daly? And they're like, so an Arnold Palmer? He's like, no, it's a virgin John Daly. Like, so an Arnold Palmer.
If the Arkansas golf team, where John Daly, the second now, plays on, doesn't throw some parties and have a bunch of John Dalys available, they are not doing it right in college. That should be on the bus ride home from events. They should all be cracking John Dalys. Everyone of age, obviously, we want you to drink responsibly. But to me, that would be, if I went to college with actual John Daly, who was next of kin to John Daly, would be a lot of John Dalys getting drink.
Tito's, take it to your next gathering. Have it at your home. It is the #1 vodka in America. I would encourage you to go to Tito'sVodka.com and check out some of the great holiday recipes you can make there. It's a cornucopia of options and wonderful ways to spice up the holiday season. But as we say, it's the #1 vodka in America for a good reason. It keeps winning all the awards because they don't spend their time and their money on flash. They spend it on quality. And so you get quality. It's not about the label. It's not about the celebrity investors. It's about the same thing that made it grow from free vodka at charity events in the mid-90s to the #1 vodka in America. And that's quality. That's what it's about.
Numero uno.
Podcast also brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped.com, where the promo code HAM gets you 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com, promo code HAM.
For those of you watching on YouTube, do you see what I see right there in that picture, guy? I see the Weed Whacker, which is the only first ever that I've ever owned a nose trimmer. It's incredible. You throw that thing right up there and it just goes to work. And you also see the Lawnmower 4.0. I did a trim the other day. It's fantastic. No nicks or cuts. The greatest ball trimmer ever to be made. Also has a USB charger. They both do. I love a good USB charger. But then I actually put it, I realized the other day, I was like, I had it plugged in closer to the kitchen. I'm like, I don't know if you can have this like sitting around the kitchen.
Like on the kitchen counter, just plugged it into your phone charger.
It's like right next to the iPad and the phone, It's like, hey, it's just Lawnmower 4.0, people.
Just always grab it on my way out the door.
Yeah. You never know. So it's got a little LED light and it's waterproof.
Plus the wireless charging system on the 4.0, John. The Weed Whacker I also use all the time, and it is the way to go. So you don't want to end up ill-prepared for the moment when the holiday celebration begins. The ceramic blade, the skin-safe technology, the quality, and now the deal. 20% off and free shipping. Manscaped.com. Promo code HAM. The 400K LED spotlight turns on. Whoosh, and you have the tools for the job. There you go.
Ooh.
You, Ben on the stream says, remind me not to eat at your house. We've got a health code violation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't pass. Actually, no, I'm very cleanly. I also pay Elva to come over like every other week.
So let's start with this, John. Thursday night football. Football is upon us. We're going to have one day off between NFL football this week, provided one of these Tuesday games as we record this doesn't get moved to Wednesday. I guess that's still possible.
Really quick before we dive into the game, I wrote this down because it kind of hit me yesterday, and we're recording this, like you said before, some more games. Couldn't they stagger some games the last couple weeks of December? Like, obviously, it'd be a pain in the ass early in the season. Like, I get it. But, like, these couple weeks, there's a lot of open inventory for days to just, like, the NBA, who, I mean, they could postpone their league or season at any moment. But, like, Christmas has always been their day. When it falls on a weekend, and it has the last couple years, even Saturday, the NFL's got 2 games Saturday. They are going to dominate those 6 hours. And they're 2 pretty good games. Like, the NBA's fucked whether they play the games or not. Like, why doesn't the NFL think about, could you go a late December week, Monday through Sunday?
Well, you probably wouldn't do it the second to last week of the season, right? Because you can't compensate those teams.
It'd be this week.
Because all those teams play Sunday at the same time, basically, right? On week 18.
Yeah, I haven't thought it that far through, because obviously you couldn't make a team go like Sunday to Tuesday, right? They couldn't have a day off. Could you stagger some buys? I don't know. I think you're going to feel it today. Like, I saw everyone complaining on social media yesterday. Raiders, Browns, this game sucks. Yeah, guys, there could just be no football game on. It wasn't that bad.
Dude, to me, Twitter loves doing this game sucks and I'm watching it. Power of the league. Like, yeah, do you know how much shit I watch? Everyone watches. I've watched the same Office episode 1,200 times. Like, football is just football. We don't need to talk about it every single time that a bad Now, I'll tell you this. That Browns-Raider game was much better than Bears-Vikings. And you know what I did? Instead of tweeting about how I was watching a shitty game, I stopped watching that game.
Yeah.
I stopped watching that game.
What, Bears-Vikings?
Yes.
It was bad. It was rough.
It was much worse than Bears Browns. I mean, Raiders Browns. Would you agree with that?
It was pretty bad. Yes, it was a rough watch. It was my guy felt like he was going to have a mental breakdown. I mean, his team was having mental breakdowns. It was a tough watch. If you have any connection, I can't even imagine being a Bears fan. You see what they caught on the camera. What does the ref say? Upon further review, you hear the fan? Upon further review, we suck.
Even Steve Levy had to laugh. That was pretty good.
It was tough. Even Lewis is boys, like tight with Nagy. And he can't, even he was like, bottom line business, you just probably not, you either win or you lose.
What can you say? By the way, Schefter, as we're recording this, tweeted that Tyreek Hill on reserve COVID list. Other players are coming, but as one source said, quote, it's a mess. I do think, because we're talking about this Thursday night game ahead of it.
Travis went on yesterday, Kelsey.
You got to treat any game where you're healthy like a must-win game, because you have no idea when you're going to play a game without half of your roster or without your quarterback, or as the Browns did with one offensive lineman in his correct spot. Like, for the Niners and Titans, the Niners are mostly healthy, knock on wood, more than 24 hours before that game. They got to play that game like it's a must-win game because you just can't afford to lose a game with your whole roster because you might end up playing one without your whole roster.
Well, they haven't had a COVID guy, it doesn't feel like, in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, doesn't feel like that.
What I don't understand, and I asked someone in the NFL about this yesterday, they stopped testing vaccinated players, and like 99% of the league is vaccinated. So as of Monday, if you're asymptomatic, you're not getting tested. Now, maybe some of these guys are showing symptoms. I don't know. But the league stopped testing, unless you ask for a test. Unless you're vaccinated, then you got to follow the rules. But I'm with you. Like at any moment, the Chiefs are lucky, right? They've banked some wins, and worst case scenario, they might not get the 1 seed if they have some COVID disaster, but they're going to the playoffs. I mean, they fucking won the division. At any moment, if the Niners popped up and lost, I don't know, a couple important guys, it would be trouble fast.
Well, I'll tell you what, if they lost Ayuk or Debo Kittle, they would look like the Titans on offense. I mean, the Titans, we both
Remember
watched.
They did? Was it 2 years ago against the Packers?
No, it was last year.
Remember it was Trent, Ayuk.
It was Ayuk for a false positive, right?
I think Trent was too. Night? And I think Debo was actually hurt at the same time, so he was already out. It was a disaster.
Yeah. All right, Titans-Niners Thursday night, John. Where do we begin? A.J. Brown, as of this discussion, is eligible to play. Doesn't mean he's going to play. I don't know if you noticed Elijah Molden just hit the COVID list for the Titans, so it'd be hard for him. I don't know that he'll play. What do you think of this matchup with Tennessee? The Niners are favored on the road Thursday Night Football. I don't know that we thought that was going to happen at the beginning of the year, especially once the season started getting played. I think before the season started, we thought maybe this could happen. They'd be favored Thursday Night Football. But once the season started rolling, that did not look likely. But the Titans have looked terrible. As we talked about the other day, they have scored 13, 13, 20, and 13 points in each of the last 4 games.
I do think that Lorenzo Neal and Eddie George pose a problem. Obviously,
not walking through that door.
No, they're not. And they are. I watched the Pittsburgh game and a little bit. I remember I watched it live, but just watched probably half of it this morning of the Patriot game because in between they beat the Jags. I just don't count that game. They are lifeless on offense, and it's rare. Even like I saw the Minnesota Vikings tweeted out Rick Spielman calling Harrison Smith and Dalvin Cook that they made the Pro Bowl. And he called him the day of the game yesterday, and they just tweeted out the video. And like Dalvin Cook is a Pro Bowl player. You watch Dalvin Cook, he's one of the better non-quarterbacks in the league, but I've seen them without him with their backup and be fine. Like even the Saints, Alvin Kamara's a star, but like they can operate without him. The Titans can just not operate without this guy. And unlike those guys, I mean, they're kind of dependent on him not just to be good, like to rush for 200 yards. Like, remember when he got hurt, we were going through some of the numbers. He was on pace with the extra game. Could he had like a 24,000 or 2,400? I mean, could have been stupid. He had a chance to win the MVP. And like maybe pretty easily. Like it would have been, if he ran for over 2,000 yards and they were a couple more wins, I think people would have wanted to vote for something different than a quarterback, and he would have won the award. And I think if you've watched him play, it feels like, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this. How big he is, how fast he is, how skilled he is. They have just not been the same. But they got reinforcements. And remember, we talked a lot about this guy because of Kyle's connection with him. But this hamstring, man, he just can't stay healthy. So Julio being out, like they got him for a reason, because with that big three, when they're healthy, the Niners would have not matched up well against those two guys, right?
No.
Hell, if AJ is eligible to play, he is a enormous addition given what they have. And I don't give a shit if it's him and me and you are the other couple wide receivers. I don't think the Niners could cover him. But like, it is much easier when it's just the one guy. They're playing with people. We went over the names. Well, when you watch, like today, I'm listening to music at the gym, watching it on the Stairmaster, so I don't, I'm not listening to the I don't know who these players are. I mean, they're just no-name, random numbers.
Cody Hollister, Nick Westbrook, Akeen, Chester Rogers, yeah. The
Niners are way more talented, is what my takeaway watching them play without these guys.
I think that. Not to give you the, like they go to we'll go back to the CBS studio before kickoff, and there's 30 seconds and 7 people that have to give their key to the game. It's always like, don't turn it over. I got the Niners. That kind of thing. Yeah. But I do think
in the trenches.
I think it's that the team that rushes for more yards will win today. Thanks, coach. I do think it's as simple as if the Niners don't turn over the football, they win, because even with A.J. Brown, they're not going to – A.J. Brown's not going to look like Antonio, 18 catches or whatever, because Tannehill can't – there's not going to be enough time for him to complete that many balls.
I think the Niners would take would they take, though, if I said A.J. Brown's back 18, remember it was 275, but no touchdowns?
Yeah, why not? They're good in the red zone. They're good in the red zone on defense. We saw that last week. Falcons stink. But
would you take 275 from A.J. Brown, no touchdowns, or 75 and 3 touchdowns?
The first one, no touchdowns, because they haven't scored 3 touchdowns in over a month, unless they scored 3 touchdowns. How did they the Jags game? They scored 20. I assume that's 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals.
Yeah, well, he didn't. He's thrown 1 touchdown in the last 3 games, and that was not in the Jags game.
So I don't think that was a mixed extra point. So they haven't scored 3 touchdowns in weeks.
Tannehill's averaging about 130 a game right now in the air, and they don't have a running back.
14 picks. I don't care. A.J. Brown, if he were 100%, and there's no way he's 100% because they haven't said he's playing yet. Chest injury, 3 weeks back from IR.
Is Tannehill a top 15 quarterback right now?
No. John, they are now. He's got no talent around him, and they can't protect. They were almost 3 sacks a game, 27th in the league coming into the last 3 weeks into the month, and they're over 3 sacks a game in the last month. So they can't protect. They do get after the quarterback. They do that.
Their coach is good. Like their head coach is a legitimate guy, right?
Yeah.
He's if we did the coaching draft, which we've always talked about, he would go high. Like if you and me owned a team and we ended up with Mike Vrabel, I don't think we'd be feeling bad, right?
No, if it was like you draft 8th, but then you'll get the number 1 quarterback, like you would take Vrabel and say, give me the best player somewhere else, right?
Well, if I told you Mike Vrabel wasn't a former linebacker, but he was a tight end and he was the offensive guy, how do we talk about Mike Vrabel? Because the guy goes to the playoffs every year. He's won playoff games on the road. And again, this year, I know they've lost 3 or 4 games, but the reason it hasn't killed them because they were like 9-1 when that happened, right? I mean, they fucking good. Mike Vrabel is a big-time coach. So you could argue their quarterback kind of sucks and they got some offensive weapons missing, but their head coach is you're facing, the real deal. I mean, this guy's big time
on a short week,
where he doesn't have to travel, right?
Right.
Todd Downing.
You just to me, it's you don't turn the ball over, you win the game. Because yes, they'll create a pass rush. They might a few times put Jimmy in a spot to throw a pick. Maybe they'll stop the run and you'll be in some 3rd and 7s. But they're not, like you said, they're not as talented as you. And as the Niners, you are now executing offensively because you're healthy.
Yeah.
So I don't is A.J. Brown difficult to cover? Yes. They don't protect Tannehill. Like he should not be able to put 4 quarters of slicing and dicing with A.J. Brown together. They shouldn't be able to put together that. Now, if they hit some big plays, I don't think they'll be able to put together like sustained long drives. But
Tannehill looks like Alex Smith would have looked if instead of going to Andy Reid, he had gone to like the New York Giants or something. And again, he looks fine when he has a running game. He's very dependent. Like Alex, once Harbaugh got here, everything was fine. But before Harbaugh, it was ugly. But like Tannehill is very similar because physically, I thought his arm was a little stronger.
I did too. I told you.
His arm doesn't look great. I think he looks a lot like Alex.
He looks like Alex, but he throws like Phillip Rivers right now.
You kind of
doesn't he look like Phillip? There was one ball he threw in the Steeler game to the sideline. I was like, how did that ball took forever to get there? I'm with you. It's weird.
I don't know. Yes. He's a bizarre player, but you're gonna look up when his career ends. It'd be like he'll bank $197 million.
Yeah, to me, he's most good quarterbacks. Good enough to be a starter, consistent starter. Some years you can go to the playoffs and maybe you can win some games with him. But if he doesn't have really good players around him, it's just not going to be good enough, and it might even look bad.
Well, wouldn't you imagine that Kyle kind of likes him, like would play with him, no problem? He could execute Kyle's offense.
Yeah, he could if he had Debo and Kittle and Ayuk.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you just put him on the Niners team, he'd be fine. Yeah. But he wouldn't. You would still think like, do we need to trade for Trey Lance? Right now, you might not think that because one thing he has been pretty durable, right? But and I'd say a major difference between him and Jimmy, he is big, right? He's 6'4". He looks big. He looks like a big NFL quarterback. He's like
college. He was a Big 12 receiver.
He's on DeRuyter's. Remember what's his name? The former Packer coach Sherman got fired, and wasn't DeRuyter the interim coach for a bowl game?
For the bowl game.
Do I have that correct?
You do.
I remember DeRuyter, not to out him, told me one time when we were bullshitting about Ryan Tannehill, he's like, now again, he was really young and a wide receiver when he was around him, and he went against him every day in practice as the defensive coordinator. I don't think he thought he was going to be. Honestly, I didn't either. I mean, I'm shocked his career has turned out as successful as it has. Right? A lot of people kind of shorted his career after Adam Gase.
I know another guy that was on that A&M staff, and same thing. So Akasha's Titans are dead last in explosive plays since Derrick Henry got hurt. That is believable, having watched them. Gustavo says Tannehill is a lesser version of Jimmy with better legs. Who's better, Tannehill or Garoppolo?
I've seen it more. I would just trust Jimmy more. And my trust level of Jimmy is not like that high, but I would. I mean, Tannehill won multiple playoff games, whereas running back went for 200 yards. He's handed it off. Now, obviously, Jimmy had one of those multiple games. Mostert had the big game in the NFC Championship game. I feel like they rushed for a lot of yards. It was another running back against Minnesota that had like 140 yards. Was it not Breda, but I think Jimmy lived a pretty charmed life too in the playoffs. So I mean that's unfair.
If you put Tannehill on this team right now, do you look at the Niners? Do you think like, oh, they'd be a lot better? They might be a little better, a little more trustworthy, maybe. But again, Tannehill's got 14 picks this year, so
yeah. Well, I mean, Jimmy could have had about 30, right? For Jimmy that doesn't throw 99 miles an hour, because I had someone DM me the other day. They're like, listen, I'm a diehard Charger fan, and Herbert's the best thing that's ever happened to us. But do you think that he should take a little off some of these balls? And I was like, I always thought Keenan Allen has some of the better hands in the league, and sometimes the balls just go right through his hands. And it's like, I don't even know if I blame Keenan Allen. It might just be an uncatchable ball for every human being in the NFL.
I think the answer to that question is yes. He needs to try to take a little off sometimes.
But
I also think he
extends like 20 yards.
He extends plays knowing he can fire it in late, but it's just a hard ball to catch. That's what I thought watching the Kansas City game last week.
What would the Niners' record be with Justin Herbert? 11-2?
It's a good question. I mean,
they'd be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have beaten Seattle twice, probably. Well, you never know. I mean, you can always lose a game here or there. You don't think you're losing to Colt McCoy. It's hard to play that game, but you would think they're at least a 10-win team. Yeah. Do you think you can make that trade this offseason?
If we did the player quarterback draft, does Herbert make it past 3, factoring in age and everything?
Yeah. Okay. You're the 9. Who do you draft first? Do you go Rodgers? I mean, he's probably going to win a second MVP in as many years. Just go, you know what? I'm going to live. I'm going to have excellent quarterback play for like the next 2 or 3 years.
I always factor in. It's hard not to with the age. No one would argue he's taking Patrick number 1. The character stuff's a check. The resume's a check.
Yep.
It just.
So you're saying Herbert goes ahead of Mahomes? I'm sorry, ahead of Brady or Rodgers?
Well, to me, Brady is not getting chosen that high. We factor in age. He's 44.
No, I would take Herbert.
I think the Roger one, you're having deep debate. Like, hey, guys, could we just go on the greatest 4-year run in the history of runs? Where Herbert, you're just thinking like, I'm thinking a decade. Like, I'm sending my kids that are 8 years old. I know where they're going to high school.
So Herbert over Josh Allen?
I think yes.
I think so, yeah, as well. Yeah.
I think Josh's star has dimmed a little bit.
It has, but he had an historic year last year. It'd be hard for it.
I'm a fan. He's still going high, but I think Herbert. I think he gets some convo. Whoever's picking one.
Yeah, I agree.
You're having a meeting. Like, can we just bring
there is
clips
yes.
again?
There is a meeting. Absolutely. All right. So Niners Titans Thursday Night Football. It is a game that I think you said it best to me before we started recording, but I don't think you've said it here yet. So I'll say it and give you credit. If you lose the game, it's a game that will look bad. It's going to be hard to lose the game and have it look good. It'll be like, oh my God, how did you it's not like, oh, you guys played great. You just got outplayed. Shouldn't look like that against this Titans team. They don't have the personnel. Well,
the other thing we had talked about before we hopped on, if this was a normal week, Like there's just a tax on a road team. I would say, I mean, probably starting early on in the season, but definitely November and December. What's this line if it's a normal week? 6?
Yeah, I said 6. I started to think maybe even 6.5, just to make it a little difficult on taking the road team. What do you think?
The Niners have scored 30-plus points, I think, 4 of their last 5 games. I mean, this team's struggling to score points.
I know.
Against
14.75 points per game in their last 4 games.
Even the Jags, like 20-0 is not an ideal win, right? Like you would like to beat the shit out of them. That was Urban Meyer's last game.
Oh, yeah. I remember that guy.
Yeah, Urban.
Yeah, once upon a time. All right, John, to the practice fields for the 49ers on the latest edition of 49ers Talk, the great Matt Mayoko, esteemed 49ers beat writer, said this about Trey Lance. I hear he's doing really well. Someone up on the 49ers food chain, high on the 49ers food chain, told me in the last 3 weeks, he's been very good. Matt went on to say that the injury that Trey Lance suffered when he hit his finger on the helmet of a Raider during the preseason affected his accuracy issues early in the year, and that finger is fully healthy now. He also said that Fred Warner made an unsolicited comment the other day after the game, and it mirrored what he had been told before the game by a high-ranking Niners official, that Trey Lance is carving up, and that was the word, carving up the 49ers first-team defense. What do you make of it?
Well, a lot of people are carving up the secondary. So it's like, he is throwing against Ambry Thomas and Josh Norman.
And Nick Bosa's not allowed to hit him like he's allowed to hit the other quarterbacks.
I'm being somewhat, sarcastic, facetious, whatever, but like he is not completing balls against Deion Sanders in practice. Like you hear some of these great teams, like we didn't allow completions in practice. Like if you've ever heard like the Ravens 0-1 defense or watching the 30 for 30 on the Bears. I was watching the 30 for 30 of the Bears over the last 3 months. And there's a clip in there where the defense and Buddy Ryan, because he hated Mike Ditka, refused to let them do anything in practice. And eventually McMahon went to Ditka and you have to talk to him. We're getting nothing out of practice. They fuck us up. So, I mean, part of it is they're trying. He can't. It's a positive, though. I'm not trying to make fun of them or make fun of even the secondary. You want to hear good things in practice. Like once upon a time, and I'm not comparing this guy, and by no means, until I see it, people thought I'm a hater. I'm thinking he's going to become this. But that first year, there were stories coming out every week about Mahomes in practice, right? That was a big thing of just what he was doing in practice, throwing the football. Because you don't get credit. They can't hit you, so you're not running around. It's throws. And one thing I think he said Fred Warner said, right, was just maybe he said the guy told him this was the velocity and just how powerful his arm is making these throws, which it's the thing that jumped out in training camp. It's if you've been to enough NFL practices, you've eventually seen some Matt Schaubs and Alex Smiths and Blaine Gabberts and Jimmy Garoppolo's and Derek Carr's. You just have a long Rolodex of what even not every player is Mahomes, right? You can win with Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins is just not going to look like. I bet if you and I went to a Bills practice in training camp, you'd come away like, holy shit, Josh Allen, right? Part of it is when you have a powerful arm, and it goes back to the first time I remember at Fresno State seeing Derek Carr at practice, it just jumps out to you on the sideline. So it's why the media was blowing Trey Lance in practice. But when a player say it, they're less about they've seen it all, right? I mean, Fred Warner's been a starter in the NFL for 4. He's seen every single basically quarterback in the league, probably, besides Brady. That it's more about this guy looks different. Now, granted, who was running scout team the last couple of years was Beathard and Mullins.
He's played well against Garoppolo though in practice.
Fred,
yeah,
and Fred's just. I mean, think how many quarterbacks he's seen. Stafford, obviously Russell Wilson. How many? He's probably seen Russell Wilson 8 times. 4 or 2 times. 8 times. Kyler Murray now 6 times. He's seen. I guess he missed a game against Colt, but you know what I'm saying, right? He's seen all these guys.
Yeah. I think.
And Fred, I would say over his short history here, he doesn't have too many quote unquote polarizing statements, right? He's not just.
No.
I would say George can just say some things, right? But, just hyperbolic a little bit. I'd say Fred, if Bosa were to say something, I don't remember the last Bosa quote. Bosa was like, "That's the best left tackle I've ever gone against." I'd be like, "Damn, that guy's probably pretty good," right?
I don't think this should be over. It's good news. I don't think it's overly surprising when we just go back and talk about what Trey Lance's football life has been like to this point. He's never really been in a situation like the one he's in this year. And if he had been playing, then we would say he's never been in a situation like that either. But this is his first year in the NFL. And, you would have loved to have heard stuff like this about Jordan Love, but we didn't. I think the thing that makes it easier to believe with Trey Lance is that I've seen Trey Lance play. And after I saw Trey Lance play, my takeaway was this guy has something here. We watched it in practice, then we watched it in games, and they've got something here potentially. So this isn't shocking to me. Why wouldn't he be more comfortable today than he was several months ago? If his finger wasn't 100%, why wouldn't he be better now? I mean, I think we agree that Trey Lance playing, particularly for Kyle Shanahan, who knows how to protect a quarterback and, not put a quarterback in compromising situations, I think that would be valuable experience for him. But it doesn't mean that you gain zero by sitting. There is something to be gained by being the backup quarterback for an NFL team, practicing against the first team defense. And so I'm not surprised to hear that it's going well for him.
I think we thought 4 years ago when that 5-player draft of, Josh Allen, Baker, Lamar, it was going to be a huge case study. You know what it turned out? Lamar went to somewhere sweet. He's sweet. Josh went to a place that was building. He had to work on it, but his talent, the cream was going to rise with him, right? He's just too talented maybe he wouldn't have become as good as he became he's on a playoff level team, but he was going to be good. You could have put him on the Texans or the Jags and he would have jumped off the screen. Baker was just going to have some flaws because of his physical skills. Turns out Sam Darnold might be the guy that just went to a bad spot, threw his career off, but maybe not. Maybe he was just destined to not be that good. And Josh Rosen, just wasn't an NFL player. This year, it feels like a little different. It's just going to be a case study on, universally everyone thought Trevor Lawrence was incredible, and he's been terrible. But he's also in a place where their coach didn't make it to week 14. Zach Wilson has been an abomination this year. Now, his team sucks, but when other players and several other quarterbacks have come in, they've played well. Trey is the only guy of the group not really going to play at all. He got one start. That's not nothing, right? He got one NFL start against 10, maybe they finished with 11 wins, the Cardinals.
And a half
against the Seattle Seahawks. But, all the other guys were thrown in. They're like, look at what Justin Fields is dealing with. Mac Jones is the only guy that kind of got a Trey Lance landing spot, but he had to play right away.
Yeah.
And he's been their starting quarterback, won the job. I think we're going to look back in a couple years. Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence are going to be a bust. I would bet Zach Wilson. And there's a chance, if I was a betting man, I would say that it's going to be pretty difficult, just given where he's playing, for Trevor Lawrence ever to live up to the hype. Because the train is already off the tracks. And I'm not totally blaming him, but if you just peek at a Jags game, he does not jump off the screen. He just doesn't.
Really? I think athletically he does. I think he looks different than most guys with his height, his narrow waist.
But I do think a lot of guys now move pretty well. I think a large percentage of quarterbacks are pretty athletic.
Yeah, I think for his height, though, I do think he looks different than most guys.
When I say doesn't jump off the screen, for a guy that I was told was like LeBron James or Bryce Harper.
Really, you go back to his last couple of years at Clemson, it was last year. Clemson.
I kept getting texts from people in the media, I don't watch that much college football, but everyone, what are we looking at here? I'm like, I don't know. Everyone tells me.
It was not Andrew Luck at Stanford.
You went to his national championship game. Didn't he have an incredible game in that game?
Yeah, what really happened in that game was Clemson picked off Tua on the first drive, at the 20-yard line, like it was a walk-in touchdown. Clemson jumped on him, and that was that. And T. Higgins, was the freshman on that team?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it a different receiver? I think it wouldn't have been T. Higgins.
Was it Amari Rogers? Is that his name?
Armani Rogers. One of those guys. Maybe it was T. Made a sweet sideline catch on a ball that Trevor was actually throwing out of bounds.
Rodgers is T. Martin's son.
Armani Rogers is T. Martin's son.
Well, I only know that because I follow T. Martin on Instagram. He's now the wide receiver coach for Baltimore. And he said it, and he had an Instagram picture of like, this is the greatest accomplishment of my life, walking out to an NFL game with my son that we're both a part of. I'm like, God, that's pretty
incredible.
Cool. But I didn't realize that Rodgers, who is now plays with Aaron Rodgers on the Packers, was his child.
I did not know that.
Maybe he just meant son, like symbolically, like he coached him, but he wouldn't have coached him when he was at Clemson.
I did not know that. That's wild. But anyway,
but my point is back to this quarterback class. Like, he did get a much, like I had the thought, if Jimmy never would have been injured and they just would have been able to make the playoffs last year, there wouldn't have been as much urgency. Maybe they stay. Maybe they just don't end up doing what they do and have a guy. Maybe they don't draft a quarterback. Maybe they just don't draft a quarterback, right? If Jimmy's just humming along and they just keep their guy going for $20 million, they'd feel good about it. Kind of like the Titans do with Tannehill.
Especially, you wouldn't be trading up.
I guess I just had the thought, if Trey Lance had ended up with the Panthers, just one of these other teams, I bet there's a decent chance that it would have been very, very difficult.
Yeah, we could
just not very much experience. It could have looked really shitty.
I feel confident saying this. Maybe we'll look back, and maybe if he's good right away or really good in 2 years, we'll say, God, if he had only played year one, maybe there will be a debate about whether or not Trey Lance should have played right away. But I don't think there's a debate that there are not many better landing spots for a quarterback than Kyle Shanahan. I know it can be complicated. I know he's hard on him. I know all that stuff. But the options are, if you could take the 49ers, if you're a young quarterback and it's the 49ers or the mystery door, you take the 49ers. And if behind the mystery door is, I don't even know who'd be behind the mystery door that makes you go, yeah, that's a better option. The Rams? I don't know. I mean, McVay,
yeah,
that's difficult. I mean, I would want McVay. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's on the list of guys I'd want to play for if I were a quarterback. But
one thing I heard about McVay is he's not. I mean, he just shows it with his actions. Like, I don't think he's really living in the developmental world.
Yeah,
he's proven like he is. He wants dudes. I'll give Kyle credit on this one. Forced in his hand a little bit with the Jimmy situation last year, but he looked in the mirror. And part of it was Deshaun got in trouble and Stafford wasn't available once he got traded to the Rams. But he okayed doing this. And clearly it's not in his nature. I had a buddy in the NFL who was a big fan of Kyle ask me, like, is he a happy guy? I'm like, yeah, he's not. I wouldn't say he's Belichick curmudgeon, but I wouldn't call him Pete Carroll.
Well, some guys are happier that way, John.
Well, yeah, I agree. But I think sometimes as a young quarterback, part of sometimes having a coordinator is like you guys get to kind of be the head coaches over here. You guys get to be together. Part of with Kyle is like, if you're the quarterback, you're with him, you guys are kind of tied to the hip. Yep. Like it's got to be a pretty intense, like part of being with Belichick, it's an intense environment for everyone in the football landscape. It's an intense environment for offensive players with the Niners. I mean, George Kittle, Trent, fucking Williams, those guys get along. But look at Ayuk, too. It was like,
yeah.
God,
I would argue
it's an intense place, which is helpful.
I would argue, let's go Fortune 500. Let's go pick out the highest achieving companies, and I would imagine there are a lot of intense places, right?
Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, like, if you just ask a random offensive player for the Chiefs, who's just been on the team the last 4 years, been to a couple Super Bowls, they'd be like, this place is sweet. He is you just do your shit. He leaves you alone. He did not a yeller. Kyle, I've actually. Do you remember him yelling being at a practice?
No, I think he yells in the moment at Jimmy, like, we are not turning the ball over on this next drive, Jimmy. But
I would imagine there's some story. He might.
I don't think he's got these Urban Meyer.
No.
I think like he doesn't let anybody else call the plays. Like, hey, Kyle, what do you think about doing here on third down? Shut the fuck. Thank you. Maybe he does that.
Yeah, I don't think he's giving out. I would imagine the meeting rooms aren't exactly always cuddly, right?
I'm sure a compliment from Kyle goes a long way because you don't get a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a Pro Bowler, if you're Juszczyk or Kittle or Trent, like it's now what you become with Debo, it's cool. But I bet if you're the right guard, if you're the running back, if you're Ayuk, if you're Jawan Jennings, like it's a fucking intense environment.
I would bet this. I bet he compliments defensive players more than he compliments offensive players.
Did you? There was, I don't know if he said it on his podcast TB12 or maybe he said it in the man in the arena.
Or maybe he said
I
it
think-
to
I'm gonna get.
Go-
I think
let's
ESPN
go.
Plus just for man of the arena. Yeah, he could have said it to anybody, but Brady had a quote that said, "If I'm putting together a team that has to win a game, in under no circumstances is Wes Welker not on the team." And I'm just saying, like, just you have that quote from Tom Brady. Like, Wes is part of this kind of group, right? And you're just a wide receiver coach in this offense. You're close with the quarterbacks too. It's all kind of one little unit.
Yeah.
I mean, they do just have, a pretty high level group of I would say younger people, right? I mean, Wes and Kyle would skew younger than some staffs in the league. I mean, Andy's 62, right? He's Sean.
He's a
Payton's-
young 62 though, isn't he?
What's Sean Payton? 58.
Yeah.
Yeah, coaches are just naturally kind of young.
Potentially good news here, by the way, John, to slip in as we talk about this on Tuesday afternoon. Saw this, Cam Inman tweeted this, that John Lynch said on KNBR that Elijah Mitchell's knee issue has taken a positive turn. He'll be a game-time decision on Thursday. He's had a concussion protocol. Knee came on the same play in Seattle, Lynch says. Did we know the knee injury happened on the concussion play? I did not realize that.
What I assumed, I didn't
thought
read
it was
that
a
much into
leftover.
it. Yeah, I thought it was one of those, like, he passes the concussion protocol, but on Monday morning his knee really hurt and they gave him an MRI and he had something going on. That's what I envisioned, because he shows up to practice or Monday morning to the training room. He's got a shattered finger that he's trying to overcome. He's got a newly concussion and he's limping. It's like, yeah, I play running back. I've started 6 straight games for Kyle Shanahan. I've been in the league for 6 months. He's gonna kill me.
I just think, given how often guys get hurt, you need another guy healthy, just in case Jeff Wilson Jr. take a couple carries from Debo, even if he's not 100%, although you don't mess with a knee like you mess with a broken finger, right? Though a broken finger can be dicey because if you can't grab the football. But if he's healthy enough to play, I just think, again, I go back to the COVID statement I made at the beginning of the podcast. Just the number of players you have available, I think, is so critical. You just never know when you're going to lose somebody. You could lose somebody on the plane, right? You could lose somebody in the locker room, the bus. Like, COVID has created a scenario where players come off of availability not related to anything that happened on the field. So just because you got through last week's game, Monday injury report, nobody on it. Cool. As long as nobody gets hurt in practice, we're good. That's not the story right now in the NFL. So
If Kyle Shanahan, do you know who would be a pretty big loss? What if he tested positive?
absolutely. Because he's
What would
probably
they-
never
What would they do?
Well, I would imagine head coach becomes
Hightower? A lot of teams just make the special teams coach the interim coach.
Do you
and
take
that's the
special
way-
teams responsibility away from him for that?
Yeah, I would not. Kyle couldn't do that.
I mean, McDaniel has to call plays, even though Kyle's probably never let him call a play in his life.
Yeah, I don't think you could do to McDaniel or definitely D'Amico's first year as defensive coordinator. You couldn't ask him to be the head coach too. Maybe you just make it like one of your older coaches on staff, like your O-line coach or something. Just call
John, you got
timeouts.
John Embry.
Yeah, I would imagine it'd be something like that. The tight end coach. Do you
Scangarello.
remember John Embry's 2-year stint as the Colorado
do.
head coach?
I do. I
do
do.
too.
But yeah, you'd have who's in the Parag in the headset, a la
Can you-
David Culley to help him with timeouts.
Can you imagine the reaction?
Bobby Turner.
And I would only want this to happen. Like, I would be interested to see what it looks like. If the game didn't mean anything, I just want to see what the offense would look like without him. If it got announced that Hightower was the interim coach for the week, what the reaction just on social media would be. I mean, it'd be hilarious.
Mike McDaniel as the OC would be fascinating.
Yeah, I would.
Because again, he's done all this preparation. Kyle's probably never let him make a call a single play.
I think he probably chimes in with some ideas.
Yeah, probably. I guarantee he chimes in with some ideas.
Mike had screamed that back shut.
I think it's probably less democratic than the preparation, though. The game calling. But anyway, Elijah Mitchell back. Just, I mean, really, it's more about not just Thursday night. It's just Elijah Mitchell healthy is a big deal because he's one of their best players.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if he's playing, their talent. Do you know what shows you about Jeff Wilson? And this, when their season starts, I was thinking about this the other day. Their running back room would have really been good, fully healthy. because Mozart brings an element that they don't. I mean, he's one of the fastest guys in the league.
Yeah.
And so you get him, and then you would have had Elijah Mitchell past Trey Sermon, and then Jeff Wilson's your third string guy, running behind Kittle, Trent Williams, and Juszczyk on tosses. I mean, holy moly. No one hit the toss harder than Mozart. Probably why he's had like 7 knee injuries in the last year and a half. I saw someone put it on Instagram like, Mozart has dropped the crutches. He's walking now. Like that's like a positive for a Kyle Shanahan running back. Like 5 months after a surgery, it's like he's able to walk on his own. It's like, good luck. You know when Eli refused to play for the Chargers? If I was like Kenneth Walker or whoever in the draft, I'd be like, Niners, do not draft me. I will not sign with the 49ers. I have nothing but
you want to go to
respect for
Andy
the franchise. Yeah. Send me to Andy. He just throws screens. Clyde's like, yeah, it's pretty good over here, bro.
You get as many carries in 4 years in Kansas City as Kyle give you in 1. I mean, it's pretty wild, though. Jeff Wilson. Here is Elijah Mitchell. I think you take a moment to acknowledge. Here's Elijah Mitchell by far and away as a rookie, right? 165 attempts, by far and away the Niners leader in attempts. By far. He has exactly 100 more attempts than the person who has the second most carries on the team. And do you know who has the second most carries on the team? Jeff Wilson Jr.
Well, see, this to me goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. Think of what the Titans would do right now for Jeff Wilson Jr. They were signing Adrian Peterson off the scrap heap, and then they cut him 2 weeks later because they realized he just wasn't any good. Like they would die for that. So your backup running back, who really is like your third running back, would easily start for the team you're about to play. All your wide receivers and obviously your tight end. They got a couple defensive guys for sure. But other than that, your talent, like that to me is what jumped out, where their record, but the talent gap. So if Elijah comes back, I saw Kyle say that Alshire will be like a game time decision. But if he's able to go with Fred, who easily had, like, you and I talk sometimes, like, listen, I don't know if Bowman and Willis get enough credit. Like Fred Warner, once he became a Pro Bowler, like he's a really good player. But those guys, like just watching, I went back and watched some of that Atlanta Falcon, just the highlight package. 52 and 53, I mean, look like fucking Ray Lewis.
You knew you were watching some of the best players ever that you'd ever seen when you watch those two.
It's like, this does not look normal. I watched the NFL all day, Sundays for 20 years. These two guys. Fred had his version of that game last week. Now, it was the Falcons, but just his violence is flying around. Like, maybe he just kind of realized having a down seat, they needed him. They had some injuries. If you get that Fred Warner, who's not Bowman or Willis, but I thought last week it felt more like 2020 Fred Warner of like, yeah, this guy's one of the top middle linebackers in the league. Their team is really good, because the one separating factor for this team is they have guys that can play for given stretches for a season, like starting Pro Bowl players. And if you have 7-8 starting Pro Bowl players, even if your quarterback is a little bit of a roller coaster, it's hard to not be pretty good every week. And now they're playing a team with how many Pro Bowlers with all their injuries are they going to roll in with? Simmons? That's it? Maybe their safety?
Defensive tackle, yeah.
31.
Byard's just an all-pro.
But I watched the Patriot game. He got Kendrick Bourne scored a touchdown on him. It's not like thing with a Pro Bowl safety, there's like Ed Reed's, and then there's just Pro Bowl safeties. He's good. He makes some plays.
No, I'm with you. It jumps out when to me, and I mentioned this, I think to you, maybe I mentioned this, we did a YouTube-only Raider Brown video Monday night. Maybe it was then I said it, but to me, what makes the Niners players like Debo and Kittle and Ayuk really pop is when you watch a game where neither team has either of those guys. Like when you watch Raiders-Browns, there were none of those guys. And it makes you realize the 49ers have some of the best players in the league to get the ball to. Some of the best, most talented, elite production players in the NFL. Like, I don't know if there was how many yak yards combined between the Browns and the Raiders. It felt like 9 total between the two teams. That's every single play Debo or Kittle touch the ball. It is, you cannot look away. They try to do something. And that's really incredible. And Elijah, he's not on that level, but I mean, he's 4.6 yards per attempt on the ground. I mean, and he's 17 catches. I mean, it's been maybe even underrated what an incredible rookie year this guy's having, considering where he was drafted, where he came from.
Nick Chubb would be pretty sweet with Kyle, but he'd probably get killed by like his third year.
Maybe he can handle it. That's a good point.
Jacobs wouldn't last long. He gets way too many injuries.
No. By the way, if Bob Stoops can coach a bowl game, why can't Mike Shanahan fill in if Kyle were to miss a game?
Mike would be here so fast.
Maybe that's why Mike's on the. You know how they said like they're expanding the number of players, like they want to expand like the standby players. Maybe you can get Mike Shanahan as like a standby head coach.
Do you think Mike Shanahan, if we went to his office right now, has notes on every game the 49ers would play this year?
He could name every player on the team for sure. Right?
100. No, I'm being serious. Like, do you think he has a notepad?
Yeah, I think he's taking notes on all their games. Yes.
I'm talking like Monday, Tuesday, all 22 tape. Right?
I don't think. I bet it's hard for Mike Shanahan just to crack a beer and watch a game.
Yeah. No.
So. Yeah, I mean,
would you imagine their dialogue between the two of them is probably pretty fluid during the season? Like throwing shit off him, asking him questions.
I mean, Kyle has said it. Like, why wouldn't I not bounce things off my dad?
Well, why wouldn't you give him special projects, right? Hey, the Titans on a short week. Could you get ahead on this and just give me some of your takes? Why wouldn't you use him like that? Like, what else is Mike doing? He's just a rich old guy sitting at home.
Power struggle, Mike and Kyle?
I actually think they got along pretty well. Mike, I remember Mike, because I was there, he'd have quotes like Tiger and Charlie. Like, I think it was like the greatest. And same with Kyle. Like, I think it was a really big deal for them to. Now, I'm not saying they didn't scream at each other. Because remember, McVay and LaFleur have been like, it was a pretty intense environment. I don't think it was an easy place because we think Kyle can be a little negative. Fuck. Google Mike Shanahan roaming the sidelines. He's not. How many times have you ever seen Mike Shanahan smile? Can you imagine the room of just offensive coaches, LaFleur, McVay, Kyle, Mike?
Yep. And
Forrester, the guy that got caught doing a little coke at the office, I think was their O-line coach.
Was there like a Kubiak or something in there too, somewhere once along the way?
I think I heard Kubiak's name last night watching Minnesota. I think his son's the offensive coordinator.
His son's the OC, and there's another Kubiak on the Niners staff, Clay Kubiak, I think.
I think the Kubiaks are pretty good coaches.
Austin on the stream says, "Give old Mike the special teams."
I bet Mike.
How about Mike Shanahan, special teams coordinator? That is such a great idea.
Look who his last special teams coordinator was.
No. How about make Mike Shanahan the special teams coordinator? Could you imagine him screaming his head off at Mitch Wishnowsky after a shanked punt? Sign me up.
One thing I listened to Rick Stroud called into Eisen, and he just Rich or maybe Stroud, one of the two retweeted it. Like the 8 minute.
Stroud is a beat writer.
He's like a Tampa Bay Tribune or something. Right. I actually think he's like their football columnist is his job. So Lambeau had went to him. And he was just telling Rich, like they had been going back and forth with Urban's lawyers because they reached out and said, hey, we got this story. Do you have any comment? They not only no commented, they say, can you hold it? We want to bring you some players that will shoot down the story. But the players refused to go on record. It was a weird deal. But one thing Stroud was telling Eisen, like one clear thing in reporting this story and talking to people, he refused to talk to kickers and punters. Like Urban treated them like you would just really shitty, like unlike other players on the team. And it just shows you like how dumb can you be, you know? Like it's like, I bet Kyle.
Bro, do you need a highlight reel of all the championships that have been won because of kickers?
Well, and I bet Kyle wants to kill Robbie Gould sometimes, right? Like Robbie Gould makes one of the higher paid kickers. He just, let's face it, he doesn't feel that reliable in any kick over like 40, but it makes no sense to scream at him, right? Absolutely none. Like ultimately, you are pretty. You could probably scream at the punter. I could live with that. I think the kicker, though, you have to be pretty nice to. Because when shit is like you need him to make kicks, unless you're Harbaugh. Even though you have the best kicker, you just refuse to kick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not only is it pointless, to not try and build that person up is a dereliction of duty.
It's hurting your own team.
Idiotic, man.
Dumb.
Just idiotic. Do we want to talk about Baker today?
I'd rather talk Bo Nix.
Bo Nix to Oregon?
Kind of like that. Do you think Heisman potential?
I don't know. I mean, his last couple of years have not been great, but the best year was his freshman year with Kenny Dillingham, who now is his new OC. And Oregon's good. So if you're the quarterback, I mean, look at it this year. Like it's pretty hard to come up with Heisman guys before the year sometimes. So yeah, if you're Oregon's quarterback and you put up numbers, you're gonna have a Heisman chance. Absolutely.
Well, I think last year, if you just would have like played the hits, picked Ohio State and Alabama's quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't like based on, like, oh, this is obviously who the Heisman guy is going to be. You're right, C.J. Stroud. If you play the hits,
we've had transfers. I guess Baker and Kyler were transfers. Justin Fields had a Heisman-like season 2 years ago. It is. I'm not saying Bo Nix is this guy's those guys. I mean, I would say Kyle. Even watching Fields, like his talent is immense. His arm strength, his speed. He needs to work on some shit. But like Justin Fields in the pocket. I was talking to a buddy. He's like, if you watch Justin Fields, he's actually not great like Deshaun and Russell Wilson when they roll, and even Lamar, they eat you alive. Justin is not great at that yet, even though he has the physical characteristics. In the pocket, he can just throw these like Herbert ropes. And I don't know if Bo Nix is not that guy, I guess is my point. But I actually think he's going to be pretty good.
Fields or Bo Nix?
Bo Nix. I think Fields would be okay, too.
Yeah, they got to get Bo Nix some receivers.
They need to get Fields some receivers, too.
After watching the Bears game, I do have to retract my, with Trevor Lawrence, maybe the Jags job's better than the Bears job. That was a dumb statement. That place was rocking the other night, so I take it back.
Well, I just think it's simple. Doug Peterson right now, he's doing like the media tour. It's just the classic, like he's getting ready. Like just get in the vernacular, It's like, oh, you see what Doug said? Oh, you see what Doug said? And now he's even at the point where like I think Trevor Lawrence. You start propping up the guys where the job's already open. You just start doing that. He lives. I read this ESPN.com article that Doug gave a bunch of quotes to. He lives in Jupiter, Florida. So Jeffrey Lurie's money was pretty good to him. I think that would make some sense. Like you're there, regionally. But to me, if I'm just independent and I don't care where I live, coaching the Chicago Bears, I mean, that's a big fucking deal.
So, it raises an interesting point, which is the Raiders are going to have some competition here, right? Ideally, Nagy and the Bears situation goes well. He saves his job because here are the Bears.
Is the job a lock to be open? They are 7-7. He's been decent.
Whose job?
Or a guy, Rich Biscaccia?
Oh, I think the Raiders' job is a lock to be open, yes. What do you think?
I tend to, too, yeah.
I think it's a lock. I mean, we've had
I can see Rich getting the, like, hey, we'll keep you on, kind of college style.
Yeah, stays as the special teams. Yeah, why he shouldn't lose his job for having to become the head coach of the team.
Yeah.
Unless maybe Doug's got a guy. But, no, but, I mean, if you're Doug Peterson, like, the Bears' job is you played for the Packers and you coached the Eagles to a Super Bowl. Like you are a bright lights guy. You have coached in the cathedrals. You have coached the premier, the default Sunday Night Football. When Fox doesn't know what to do, they throw in an NFC East game, right? The Packers rate every time.
Do you know where Doug's career started? Do you know where he became a backup quarterback?
49ers?
I mean, kind of close, but Don Shula and he was Dan Marino's backup quarterback. So he went from Marino to Favre as backup.
Okay. Like, you would take the Bears job over the Raiders job, right?
I do think Derek has a lot of value because one thing that you noticed last night, and we were talking about Tannehill, Derek in football circles is just better than these guys to football people. And I would agree. He's better than Tannehill. He's more of a sure thing than, like, this is my thing with Lawrence. There's a chance that he doesn't turn out to be that good, right? I think it's fair to say that. Justin Fields, who knows, right? If you just said the Jets job was open, would the Jets job have a lot of value just because they have a first-year quarterback? I think you could just sell yourself on, hey, Mark, can we just give this guy a 4-year extension? He wants to be here. I want to coach Derek Carr. I know I have a guy that I can win, 30 years old. I can build the team around. We already have some pieces. Add on to it and let's go. That's why I do think Derek, for some NFL people, especially Doug, who's been in the league, right? He knows that like having, one in the hand's better than like all this hope in the bush. And that's kind of what young quarterbacks can be, right? Like let's say, for example, Kyle disappeared tomorrow and the Niners job came. There'd be a lot going for it because it has all this crew of young players. But if you got rid of Jimmy, you just have no clue. Like there's Mayoko and Jed or, Lynch telling him how sweet the guy is in practice is one thing, but it's like he's got to play in the games. Or Derek, I've seen him play in the games now for 8 years. We can nitpick him all we want, and it's fair. But Harbaugh, Doug Peterson, like if you told Doug Peterson tomorrow, like you have a playoff fringe level roster and Derek Carr is your quarterback, do you feel pretty good about your chances?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I'll take my chances.
Yeah.
Right?
And, and I guess I should also acknowledge this. Is Ryan Pace getting fired too in Chicago? There's not a guarantee. Like you might have to work for a GM. Now maybe, I don't know what happens with Pace, but my point is like with the Raiders, you're getting full control of the operation. I've never been one to undervalue Derek. I know you're not. No, I know you're not. I think it's a really good point. Like the reason I say that is I'm rethinking a little bit the Raiders situation. And I guess part of it would be, what do you think of Justin Fields? Like, what does Doug Peterson think of Justin Fields, right? He would have to do a study of his own.
To me, it's just one of those where you're just taking a calculated risk with any of these young guys. To me, the Jags, and maybe it's just I'm on the polar opposite coast. I just laugh at the franchise. I just have a hard time. I'm the coach of the Jags.
They're a joke franchise, especially when your options. And in fairness to the Raiders, like the Raiders compared to the Jags, it's not even the Jags do not belong in that conversation.
No,
organizational history, brand, all of it. JB,
well, like I think if Zimmer got fired, I think the Vikings would. If Spielman was hiring the coach, would be a desirable job. They consistently have good players. The franchise matters. The owner has money. They've just consistently been competitive in our lives.
Worst case, you've got a solid quarterback. Somebody else signed them, and
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll tell you we'll be looking for our next. They've even talked about. I guess did they draft? Yeah, they drafted Kellen Mond, but it's not like he doesn't matter.
JB on the stream, who has a Raider logo in his avatar, says Raiders job just comes with the inherent fuckery from an organizational standpoint. You could argue the Bears comes with some of that too. Not quite to the Raiders level though. But again, I just turned on the TV on Monday and saw that place absolutely rocking. And if you're Doug Peterson, you go, if I got this place like to a Super Bowl, I've done it. Did it with Nick Foles in Philly. I mean, that would be, do it anywhere, it's legendary. So doing it with the Raiders would be legendary too.
But. Well, think about this. Let's not even bring up Michael Jordan or, the 85 Bears. Just think about like Thibodeau and Derrick Rose and that crew, how big of a deal they were. And they didn't get anywhere past the conference finals. Think how big Cubs teams that beside the ones that won it all. The Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor. When you are good in that town, it is just culturally important in this country, right? Their fan bases are too big. They just have too many fucking people that follow their teams. Right?
What is it, the third biggest city in America?
Yeah. So it goes New York, L.A., Chicago. I heard someone call it the third biggest market like within the last week. I've always assumed that.
Yeah, it is.
What's San Francisco?
Well,
it's weird because if you factor in San Jose, it's bigger than it actually is.
Oakland,
right?
Yeah, it's the Bay Area. I mean, San Jose is the 10th largest city in America.
Yeah. So if you combine San Francisco and San Jose and
Oakland, yet nobody wants to go to a college football game at Levi's. I don't get it.
But they don't go to college football games at Stanford, right?
Cutler throwing to Marshall and Jeffrey was a big deal.
Remember Jimmy Ward trying to cover them, I think, on Monday Night Football like 6 years ago? It was a bad matchup for old Jimmy.
Hung says, hey, John and Guy, great show. Who do you give the most credit to for turning the Niners season around? Would love to hear your thoughts. Kittle's health.
Yeah, I'd say Debo playing running back too.
Yeah, Debo's.
I'd say 85 and 19 just kind of did a get on my back. Because 97 has been playing, I'd say, basically the same way, start to finish, all season long. It's not like he's done everything he could, right? Same with Trent. It's like, I just show up every day, kick ass. But I think when you're a pass rusher, even if you get a sack a game, like you can only do so much. Trent Williams is like, I deplete a guy every other play, but if they don't run behind me, it's like, what the fuck? Those two guys get the ball in their hands, and they just. I would say also Jimmy just playing a little more under control. Like he was out of control at times in some of these games where it's just. I felt like he looked like the 28th best quarterback in the NFL, and I don't care how you could have 17 George Kittle, you can't overcome that. Like there were games where Jimmy looked like a bottom 5 quarterback, and you just can't overcome it. And the Niners had some injuries, and they were off anyway. But he has been just dramatically just more under control. Like that's a huge. Just play under control. I don't need you to be like Joe Burrow, who does just sweet shit. Just take a deep breath. Hell, take some sacks. That's where Derek. I think people crush him. Like Derek, for the most part, is really under control. So he's not losing you the game. Now people crush him when they're getting their ass kicked, and he just keeps dumping it down. But I think
then he takes a deep shot.
But he's wired himself like that's helped keep a average to below roster in these games over the last several years.
Yeah.
Right. I think Gruden hammered that into him. And then I think in the play on Monday night, probably just felt like, fuck, we got no shit. I got to push the envelope. I'd say most of the times when Derek pushes the envelope to a non-blue chip guy, it doesn't go well. He's thrown that pick several times in his career. And I think if he's going to take more early.
Who's he supposed to take a deep shot to? Deshaun Jackson? I've yet to see Deshaun Jackson running free downfield. I don't know if you have.
Well, there was a play early on Monday's game where he hits Deshaun in the hands, and Deshaun was like, yeah, it's 30 degrees outside. I'm not really feeling catching this. And it bounced right off his hands. And Deshaun has good hands. And it was like, oh, yeah, Deshaun's not a big cold weather guy. It's just saying his cup of tea.
All right, John, you want to have a little fun?
Yeah.
Shave it or save it. We have another submission on shave it or save it.
Come on down.
So here's the game. For those of you new to the show, shave it or save it. You send us photos of your receding or balding head situation, and we help you out. As a couple of hair experts, we tell you whether you should shave it or save it. So, John, it is time for another edition of
Shave It or Save It.
Everybody say hello to Elliot from Orange County, who looks pretty good, I would say.
Yeah,
Elliot's got
blown away, guy. I don't know where this is going.
Elliot's got, all right, from the front, as we take a look at Elliot, he's got a little gray in his beard, but he's got a pretty good head of hair here. Picture number 2. We like a good aerial. This from the top. I'd say again, nothing really jumps off. We got a little thinning, I would say, up here on the temples, but he's got plenty of this bushy hair that he's got going here to cover it up. All right. Picture number 3. This is the reverse aerial. We've got, we can see here he's not an overly hairy guy. We can see no back hair on this shot here. And we've got some posterior skull balding, but nothing crazy. Huh. Interesting that Elliot's even thrown himself in the ring here, wouldn't you say?
I would imagine, let's just go Elliot, mid to late 30s. He's had such thick hair his entire life. So much hair he didn't even know what to do with. And the first sight maybe of like a shower out of a pool, he got a mirror shot where it just might have been a little off and you freak out. I would say he is not even in the realm of even having to contemplate doing anything but doing exactly whatever he wants with his hair. Long, short. Us bald people, that we're jealous of that look. You're not even close to even having the spot on the back of your head, guy.
I would imagine you're right. Like what's happened is if we look over here, he's had to comb forward in some spots where he never had to think about it, right? I see him combing forward a little bit. Like I've got on my part here, like depending on how it is, you can move some hair and just cover up a little spot. So I would imagine you're right. That's probably new to him. He's like, what's going on? And then he saw shave it or save it. He's like, oh my God. Maybe it crossed his mind. You know what? Probably for however old he is, 98% of his life, it probably never even occurred to him that he might lose his hair.
Never occurred to him. No.
And now he's starting to see some signs. He's got a couple kids running around, and Next thing you know, a year, 2 years pass, and bam, I haven't looked at my head in 2 years, and all of a sudden there's this spot that I never noticed before.
Or he sees like a picture with his grandpa, at his parents' house when he was like 10. And he realizes his grandpa, was 60 years old and he was bald. You like start doing the math. You're like, that was my mom's dad. It's like it's on my mom's side, and you start putting 2 and 2 together. You're like, is this going to happen to me?
Yeah.
And I would say you're in pretty good shape.
Should he change anything stylistically here?
No, I like that kind of the power of McVay, Frohawk. You
Yeah.
ever done that guy? I feel like you've never have.
The middle, I probably have. You mean like move everything to the middle? Maybe I haven't done it quite like that. No, now that I think about it.
Kind of, it's the McVay meets the Yogi Roth.
Yeah, Yogi goes to a side. This is more centered.
Who would you say has thicker hair, you or Yogi? Yogi has great hair. I mean,
Yogi does have very good hair. Yeah, he uses a thicker texturizing product, so hard to say. Lee on the stream says his marriage status included, pretty much up to his wife. No, look, here's what I respect about Elliot here. I think Elliot doesn't want to be like Blockbuster Video, realize that it's too late, right? Elliot wants to address, he sees, some companies, they make money, lose a little money, and people go, nah, we're fine. We're still making a ton of money. And there's one guy in the room going, guys, this is a trend now. We have to acknowledge this trend. And that's Elliot. Elliot's like, guys, we've got a trend here. We need to acknowledge, let's not hide our head, bury our head in the sand. We got to talk about what's happening. And while it might be happening, I'm with you. This is, unless you just want to be bald.
Yeah, no, you're good. You know that Reed Hastings offered Blockbuster Netflix for $50 million and they laughed him out of the room? So
what year was that?
It would have been early on in the DVD delivery age. So, late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh,
they
wow.
laughed him out of the room.
They didn't have Elliot in the room from Orange County.
No, well, this is where sometimes you always want to be, right? You want to be proactive, not reactive.
Right.
You can just be active. Just fucking live with that hair, do it up, have the Frohawks, do whatever you feel. You are so far away to me.
I think it's Frohawk. Frohawk would be,
unless it's a precipitous drop off. And I think sometimes it's a precipitous. So it could happen fast because there is a little, an inkling of potential, but I think it's the other one that, yeah. But I would say
that's also, if I took that photo now,
would you look like that?
Hard to say, but no, I've seen photos like
pretty thick.
No, you would see some of that with most people. Now the question, John, Colin on the stream says the key is to shave it and then see how it grows back to determine threat level.
But I don't think it's, the threat level.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, and I don't think you need to risk that. You get in your own head. You don't even just rock what you got. You look good.
Eventually, it's coming, and then we'll find out what you're. It's hard. I don't know what his.
See, I don't know if he's. Do you think he's an inevitable? He recedes a little bit.
I think what he'll end up having is probably some hair on the side. This. I don't. It's hard to tell. It might need to see it wet. If you could FaceTime from the shower, Elliot, that would help us get a better idea of what's going on here.
Most men like over 35, 40 wet, unless you have elite hair, probably is going to have, I would say 50% of them are going to be kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Wet.
Yeah.
I'm talking
the question is just
out of the pool.
But to answer your question about like where is it going, it's hard to say for sure. It wouldn't surprise me if we're going to lose some of this. But yeah, he might keep this right here forever, and maybe even this path to the front. What do you think of that? Like when you lose the temples, but you still have this path to the front, all the way to the front.
Do you know what I would recommend then? Would be either the Rogaine or the shampoo. It helps you keep what you have.
Oh,
I would just maybe start mixing that in a little bit.
See if promo code Ham still works on one of those.
Yeah,
was it him?
Keeps or something.
Keeps, yeah, Keeps. Go try a little Keeps.
Roman, that's
get Roman.
Rex MD. I don't know.
Yeah, man, it's a good look you got going here.
What would you guess he does?
Ooh, I don't know. Do you have a guess? It's a tough one.
That's a good question. If he feels like a UC guy, I could see like UC San Diego, maybe Pepperdine, something like that. Educated guy, clearly married. His wife's got the thing up in the background.
Yep.
It's a
family's joyful.
Yep. Yeah, young family. He's got a couple kids. Probably 5 and 8, maybe 5 and 3. I bet something business, I was going to say like mergers and acquisitions. Obviously, that could be a lot of things.
But acquisitions. Yeah.
If you told me he works at like Wells Fargo,
like I would say, to me, it looks like he's like got his own kind of boutique marketing company.
yeah, maybe he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He might. To me, he's got potentially like he works at Wells Fargo, very good living, the bennies. He's got the side hustle that he's hoping to do the transition.
Walked away from my corporate job to start this bakery.
Which is, you got 2 young kids and a wife. He's like, to pull that trigger, you just got to make sure that side hustle is going to shoot like a rocket, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that could be.
Because if you're going to storm out of Wells Fargo and be like, what's his name? Elliot. You leave this $300,000 job. It's not going to be here when you come back in a year. Okay, I'm gone. I'm done cold calling startups. Then he just walks out.
I'm going Mark walked away from that job to start his own marketing company.
One thing that I'll probably never have the opportunity to do that I did have the opportunity to do that I would recommend if anyone has the opportunity to just go out in a blaze of glory in a professional environment. Just if you know it's over and you're not worried about coming back and there's no like really bridge to burn, just kind of do the Jerry Maguire thing.
In hindsight,
it doesn't even have to be that long, but just go out just with a couple maybe FUs.
But I would say
you don't even need to swear.
It's kind of crazy to know that your radio show is ending before they end it. That's why they always take people right off the air. They never let you go on the air. If we had just gone on the air and you had been like, look, man, our days here, I mean, our contracts are up. They're not going to let us. We're not making it to November.
See, you're ahead of me. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about.
No, I know what you're
walking
about.
out with people in cubicles and stuff.
I got it. I'm just saying, like, in hindsight, now you made me think the next level, too, is there was this whole other opportunity to be like, they are ending the show. We are starting a podcast. I recommend you start downloading it now.
Yeah, that might be the way to do it. Not double FUs, FU, but more like bust out a couple bottles of champagne, start spraying it like I just won the F1 race. Like, yeah, I'm free. Something like that would be pretty fun. Maybe hand out some T-shirts like "Sucks to be you, sucks to be you." You guys are all stuck. I know every single one of you hate this place. You too, Billy. I know you talk shit about the boss all the time.
What was Howard Stern's guy? Pig vomit?
What was vegetable lasagna? The guy she sat next to in the plane.
Yeah, Seinfeld. Pig vomit.
Very similar humans, though, right?
Yeah, I would say.
Because I thought we called our guy vegetable lasagna.
There might have been a. Yeah, I mean, I just thought there was a physical resemblance.
But it felt like also intellectual resemblance, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. There were. I put up a lot of. Did I print out a vegetable lasagna picture?
I thought you printed out like a picture of like a Western with like statements on it, like go west and don't come back. And you,
I did.
Random shit just all over the.
I put up 2 fake motivational posters in the office that no one knew were fake and stayed up forever. And one of our, I don't remember if it was Cody or Derek or Daniel. A couple of people sent me a photo like a year later. It was still up. One was a picture of Alcatraz and it said "Be the Rock," because the story was that the station like lost Lund because they couldn't get a hold of the boss because he was at Alcatraz or something like that on a tour, and the contract negotiation was falling apart. Lund would have to confirm that story. And then the other one was a picture of a cowboy. What did that one say?
I thought it was like empty your bullets and then reload and keep shooting.
Yeah,
it was just something stupid.
But it had a meaning. I don't remember what the meaning was.
Yeah.
Derek or Cody, one of our old producers, would remember, and they can tell me.
# Go Raiders.
Be the Rock was definitely about Lund leaving. Lund or Papa. One of them, I mean, obviously they both did, but it might have been related to Papa. I can't remember. But in any event. All right. On that note, John.
Godspeed.
We need your shave it or save it submissions. So
submissions,
send us those.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely send us those. All
right. We see you guys, in the late 20s, early 30s.
We know you're out there.
Yeah, we know you exist. I see you every day if I leave the house. You guys are everywhere.
You need our help. We're here. Just ask. Elliot, good luck to you. Thank you for submitting. Save it. And to the rest of you, we'll see you Thursday.
Thursday.